Hey tyers, welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. Darren here. Today we're going to be tying a pattern called the Marabou Smelt. This one is created by Dick Stewart and comes from his book with Bob Lehman, Trolling Flies for Trout and Salmon. This is an effective pattern for both Maine's landlocked salmon and the trout that share the lakes with them. This is a mix of bucktail and marabou, and I feel that gives the fly both a little bit of stability as well as the motion that you're going to get from the marabou. So I've got two different versions. We're going to be tying the jungle cock version today, and as you can see, you can finish the head for the eyes with either jungle cock if you've got it, or painted eyes with a white and black combination, which works just as well. This is a good fly. It's a good imitation for fry and smelt for the Northeast lakes, and this is something that either the salmon or the trout would love to gobble down. So let's have a look at the materials and get started. Alright, let's get a fresh hook in the vise here. Today I'm using a size 4 L87 Mustad signature hook, and this is a replacement for the old 3665a, and it's got that nice limerick bend. It's a 3 extra heavy, 7 extra long hook. It's a pretty sturdy hook, and it's going to be perfect for those big salmon and lake trout. Using a 210 denier flat wax nylon to start. We'll just start by putting on our thread at the head, trim off the tag end. One thing I want to do while I'm tying the body of this fly is to keep my thread flat. So you can see as we wind forward, you can kind of see how we get a little bit of a twist in there. And we're going to take that out as we go along. We're going to take a piece of gold and silver mylar tinsel, flat mylar. This is the uni, and I'm using a number 10 on here. Gives you a nice mylar to work with, and you can overlap this fairly easily. So we're going to tie that along the side of the hook shank with the gold side facing out. And we're going to take touching wraps, and as I said before, we're going to just pause every few wraps, and we're just going to spin left just to take out some of that twist, and that'll help this flat wax nylon sit flat on the hook shank. You can kind of see as we wrap it builds up. Give it a few twists, take it out till it lays flat again. We're just going to wrap down to the hook point, and then we're going to go back up. We just want to kind of keep this fairly flat. It doesn't have to be perfectly flat by any means, but we don't want a bumpy underbody for our mylar, and the flatter the thread is, the flatter the mylar body will be once we wrap it up. Alright, so we're just going to end that at the head. Next we're going to take a 6/0 black thread, just using the uni, and we're just going to tie over top of the flat wax nylon. Trim off the tag end there. And we just want to make sure that we got a secure transfer there. Then we're going to add a half hitch or two onto the front end of this fly. So we're going to use our rotary feature. I'm going to wind up the silver mylar tinsel, and that'll also help us get a nice smooth body. So what we want to do is we want to just twist that so that the gold side is on the inside and the silver faces out. And we're just going to overlap our tinsel a little bit, and we're just going to pull that down and towards us a little bit just so that there's a bit of tension on the mylar. And as we turn it, we're not going to get any kinks, and it's going to have a nice smooth body. We'll just go a little bit over our thread there, and then we'll carefully, we're going to add a couple wraps just to trap in that mylar. Want to make sure you go on the back side just to make sure that's trapped in before you release the tension on it. And then you can give it a few extra wraps to add some more tension onto it. So now we're going to start building our wing, and for that we're going to use some white bucktail for the base. We just need a small little clip here, matchstick sized clipping, maybe a little bit larger than that. And what I like to do is just stack this in my hand without using a hair stacker. So first I'm going to just take out some of the really short fibers from the back, and then I'll go up to the tips and I'm going to pull the longest ones out and kind of set them where I want my wing length to be. And I'll do that a couple times just so we kind of even those up. And then I will twist the strands between my thumb and forefinger, and if there's any that are really out of place there, I'll just pluck those out. It's the same thing I do to build a belly on some of my streamer flies as well. So there, we'll measure out our tail. We'll add a couple wraps to secure that. We want to sit that right on top of the hook shank. And I just like to press my thumb on top of those and just let the hairs kind of settle into place. And you don't get a lot of hairs sticking up when you do this. Clean up the thread wraps on the bottom there. Yeah, that's a pretty nice looking bucktail wing. Next we're going to take a little bit of marabou. I've got maybe a quarter of a feather. We just want to take them directly from the stem. And we're going to tie those on top of the bucktail. I've got them just a touch shorter than the bucktail, which is fine. We'll trim off the butt ends of those if you can. So next we're going to take a blue marabou. The one I'm using here is actually a Superfly baby blue. I don't believe that they make this anymore, or a light blue. The original recipe calls for aqua. If you use a silver doctor blue, I'm sure that would be fine, or if you've got some other light blue, or kingfisher blue might be nice in this. And again, we're just going to wrap those on top of the white marabou. And we'll trim off the butt ends of that at an angle. That'll help form the head of the fly. So next, for the topping, we're going to use a few herls, peacock herls. So if you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll know I like to take them directly from the stem. So what I do is I just pull them out to the side and rip them all off. And we've got 6 here, I guess. And we're just going to turn those so that the tips taper down in with the wing. And we want to make sure that those are directly on top as well. We'll add a few wraps, wrapping backwards. And we just want to check that to make sure that that wing is seated on top properly before we clip anything. It looks pretty good. Just a tiny adjustment there. Come in and cut off those butt ends at an angle. Now we can start thinking about, at this point, if we want to finish the fly with painted eyes or jungle cock. So for this one, we're going to use jungle cock. So I'm going to select 2 nails, and you want to size those sort of to the same size as your fly. So if you're tying these smaller, you want to use some smaller nails, and larger, of course, you want to use some larger ones. So what I like to do is just put the nails back to back, lining up the tips, and then I'll measure those out approximately where I want them to be for length, and then I'll tie them in one at a time. You can tie these in both at the same time if you wish. And I don't like to take it right back to the bare stem. I like to tie in a little bit of the fiber just so that it seems to sit a little bit better and they don't pull out quite as easily. And I'll sit the other side in there as well. A few wraps of thread. Now what I like to do is just pull back both of the tips after I got them seated there. We'll pull both those tips up and we'll tie them down so they're really locked well in place. And as long as you've got a tight wrap on the stems, you can grab them both, give them a quick pull, and they'll come off. No need to cut it. So that's basically your smelt. We're going to add a few whip finishes here just to try and clean up that head just a little bit. I'm going to add a second one just to make sure that everything's locked down. And we'll add a coat of Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails or a bone dry layer just to secure everything in place. And we'll set that aside to dry, and there you go. That's your Marabou Smelt. Hey fly tyers, thanks for stopping by and watching my fly tying video. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell icon to get notified on the latest fly patterns, tips, and reviews. If you enjoyed the video, take a second and hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments, you can post them below in the comments section. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for your support of the channel, and until next time, this is Darren saying, keep a hook in your vise. Cheers.